many companies are just starting to look at Bitcoin, alt blockchain is already deep into both mining and also holding. Joining us today is Todd Alt, the visionary CEO and founder of Alt Blockchain.
Yeah,
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So I'm actually the executive chairman of Hyperscale Data, which mines Bitcoin and is the largest validator and owner of nodes for the Alt blockchain. And so we're publicly listed under the symbol GPUS on the New York Stock Exchange. And we're very much into AI, robotics, and blockchain.
Wow,
and so that's what we do there. We're in a lot of different countries now. We have about 718 employees now in multiple categories. We just signed a very big deal with AGI Bot in China, in Shanghai just 2 days ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we're really excited about robotics. We have a data center in Michigan that's 300 megawatts. We're currently running 30 megawatts of NVIDIA servers and Bitcoin miners and expanding. And now we're going to make it the robot center of excellence in the United States, 617,000 square feet under roof on 83 acres. It's really amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I'll look forward to that.
Me too.
So you've been known for Bitcoin strategy, but now AI and data centers are taking the spotlight. So how are you balancing these two things inside your portfolio?
So we see Bitcoin as a pristine piece of collateral. And so we're adding it to we mine Bitcoin, we buy Bitcoin every week, and we put it on our balance sheet. Similar to MicroStrategy's, except what we do is we look at it as a core anchored asset against our data center and all of our assets. So all of our corporate capital, a big chunk of it goes towards Bitcoin, where we hold it and use it as pristine capital.
Wow. That's a powerful vision.
It is.
Yeah. So most companies choose to either buy Bitcoin or mine it. But why did you choose to do both?
I think that we thought initially we started off as a miner. My wife and I in 2011 got involved in Bitcoin and have had a lot of stops and starts. And the reason we launched the Alt blockchain is because we were debanked over 10 times in the United States for being Bitcoin miners. It used to be kind of a sin in the United States. The regulators were against miners and banks were against miners. So it was very difficult in the United States to be a miner. But now with Trump and our relationship with the administration, things have changed, and we've launched the Alt blockchain to create a global protocol that's US based, but also has outside activities in Korea. Korea is a very big market for us, Singapore, and around the world, as we allow traditional finance, my 37 years on Wall Street, to take traditional finance assets and move them on chain in a global trading environment that's high speed. Very similar to Hyperliquid, but highly controlled from a sense that we're controlling our growth. And we don't put any assets on our chain that we're not willing to own. So we are willing to own Bitcoin, we're willing to own silver, we're willing to own gold, we're willing to own platinum, we're willing to own certain assets. So we're the sponsor of it, but anyone can build on our chain. And so we're trying to get people that are in TradFi and the 97% of the world that has not ever been in crypto to be safe and feel comfortable allowing themselves to come on chain.
Yeah, it's actually really important to be safe.
Yeah, for sure.
Feel safe, I mean. How does this hybrid approach help you manage your costs?
It's very difficult. We're growing very fast. We did 102 million in revenue last year. We plan on doing more than 200 million this year. That's the forecast we've given to the public. And expanding into Korea and and Singapore and throughout Asia, it's difficult. I mean, I have to admit, it's fast growing, fast paced. But Zangle, who's an important Korean partner, has really helped us. James Kim, who's really instrumental with Zangle, in helping us sort of grow. And what we're doing, our relationship with Hanwha and others, really has changed the game for us in terms of Korea. Korea has become an incredibly important place for us to be at. We're super happy to be here.
Yeah, that's why you're here.
That's why we're here.
We all know, well, not all, but like a lot of people in Korea know about Bitcoin, and there's something about roller coaster. So how does your company handle the price swings? Like, for example, recently there was a price swing due to the global economic situation.
I get your question. The volatility in a new asset is always going to be there. You should not be buying any Bitcoin without being prepared to hold it for 4 years or longer.
4 years?
Well, I don't buy it with the idea I'm ever going to sell it, but that's a different story. But for the average person, if they're worried about the volatility, they should not buy it. The volatility in Bitcoin is your friend. You should just be continuing to buy it to build your stack of Bitcoin. So you're building your own pristine collateral that no one can touch, that's yours, it's in your wallet. No human, no bank, institution, or government can take it from you if you properly put it in a DeFi wallet. It's yours. As Michael Saylor says, you can't walk into an airport with $10 million worth of cash, but you can walk into an airport with $10 million worth of Bitcoin, right? And so if you're thinking about Bitcoin from a trader's perspective, that's volatility, right? If you're thinking about Bitcoin as an investment opportunity to build an asset, a pristine collateral and capital for yourself, then you got to buy Bitcoin over time. I buy Bitcoin every day. I have automatic purchases every day of Bitcoin.
Every day?
Every single day.
Why is it 4 years?
Because that's generally the cycle, and it's a curve in terms of adoption. That there's a whole group of people turning 18 and around the world that are learning about how they can affect. Remember, lots of markets like in Africa and Asia around the world have never had access to the crypto markets. They've never had access to capital. They've always had to deal with, like if you're in Zimbabwe, you've had to deal with your currency. This is really the first time in the world where you can own a global currency and be protected. And that's why it's important to that adoption cycle. 4 years, there's a whole strategy around the halving and stuff like this, but global demand is gonna beat the halving now. So it's gonna be one of those scenarios. Think about it. If there's 21 million Bitcoin ever and say 4 or 5 million of them are lost, for everyone to own one Bitcoin is going to be almost impossible. There's 8 billion people in the world, right? And so we created a product called Bitcoin Max on our blockchain, on the alt blockchain, which takes Bitcoin into a Swiss trust with a Swiss trustee, with a Swiss bank, and tokenizes Bitcoin down to the Satoshi level. So 1 Bitcoin equals 100 million Satoshis, and that's going to trade on our blockchain. So we're really advocates of stacking that Bitcoin and using it as pristine collateral.
For my last question, what advices would you give to Korean companies?
So I was saying Korea is very unique because it's so dominated by retail, and institutions have not been allowed to invest in crypto. I think when that happens, Korean institutions are allowed, it changes the entire narrative. So my hope is the government works very closely with institutions to allow that transition to take place where Korean institutions can adopt it too. And that's going to change the game, because what Korea's kind of led that way. If you follow the crypto markets the last 10 years, Korea's really dominated that space. A very important market without institutional support. Imagine with the institutions supporting, with the insurance companies, the broker dealers, the banks. Imagine them getting involved. It's going to change the narrative.
Thank you really much for sharing your time and deep diving into this issue. It was nice having you, Todd.
Nice to meet you, G1. There you go, G1.
Today, Ether is a global movement towards a decentralized future. We are deeply honored to have Adrian Lee from the Ethereum Foundation with us today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. To start off, there's often a misconception that foundation runs Ether. So how would you explain the Ethereum Foundation's role to people who are brand new to this space?
Yeah, so I think the Ethereum Foundation is actually quite different from a lot of the other foundations for other chains. The Ethereum Foundation was created in the beginning. Some money was set aside at the beginning of the chain to basically put some resources into things that the market would not be able to do by themselves, right? And I think the vast majority of that is really research, right? So some of these like very long-term thinking type of research. For example, at the foundation, research into zero-knowledge proofs and also into post-quantum preparedness has been going on for many years. This is something that the market itself, it's very difficult for them to come up with. Beyond that, there's also the fact that the Ethereum Foundation holds less than 1% of all the Ether out there. I know many of the foundations out there, they run most of the nodes, or they have a very large percentage of the supply.
Yeah.
So in terms of like the decentralization aspect and that kind of resilience of the network is quite different on the Ethereum side. There really isn't that much that the Ethereum Foundation has power over, to be honest. I would say like most of the power of the Ethereum Foundation is given by the people's kind of respect for it, right? Obviously, they put a lot of resources into research, and so there's a lot of deference. I think they deserve that kind of deference, right? But at the same time, I would hope that everyone's watching this to understand that Ethereum, it does not belong to the foundation; it belongs to everyone. And even though I work for the Ethereum Foundation, I don't tell people I work for the foundation. I tell people I work for Ethereum. In my opinion, compared to a lot of other chains, it really sits at a different level.
So Ether belongs to everyone.
Yes.
That's what you just said. There are various kinds of cryptocurrency. How do you describe Ether's unique value to it?
So I think, first of all, Ether, the value secures the network. And it's run by all these different nodes, right? And that's not different from any other chain. They also have a bunch of nodes, right? But these nodes are run by a very diverse set of clients, right? What that means is there's different types of software that runs these nodes, and basically there's no smaller than a handful that are very active in use today. Compared to a lot of the other chains, there's maybe the vast majority of them only has one piece of software. Some of them maybe have two or three, but they're not as diverse, right? So if there is a bug in one particular software, then the whole chain goes down. And we've seen that with some of the other chains, right? Whereas with Ethereum, it's never gone down in over 10 years. Not even 1 second has ever gone down, because there was always more than a handful of different software running, right? So sometimes there's going to be bugs, right? There was a bug and maybe it brings down 20% of nodes, but because there's 80% still using other software.
The rest is alive.
Exactly. So that means, Ethereum has the deepest liquidity because investors trust it the most, because it's never went down before, because there's 5, 6, 7 different pieces of software that runs the whole network. And I think that is something that I think a lot of people might not know. People can look at a trading volume and things like that. But ultimately, it's about having that history, that survivability and reliability that really sets it apart from a lot of different chains.
With the approval of Ethereum's ETF and the influx of institutional capital, do you feel that the ecosystem is fundamentally changing a bit?
Yes, I think so. It is growing, and I think it's important for traditional markets to be able to hold Ether, because that actually reduces volatility, right? Because now Ether is in the hands of different types of people, from the individuals all the way to governments and institutions. That creates a much wider market, so that there aren't so much sometimes the demand and supply shocks can be a lot more volatile if it's only held in the hands of retail, for example. Given that there are people who are trying to hold on to these things in a more long-term way or in a more specific, sophisticated way, I think it's only going to be better for the industry, because I don't think it really benefits anyone for something to go up and down 90% every single day. Of course, up always feels good, right? And it sounds good.
But if there's an up, there's always a down. Exactly,
right? So if it can go up 90% in one day, then it's, there's also a very good chance it might go down 90% another day. Those highs feel nice. I think as the market matures, we also want something that's a little bit more stable as well.
As you said, I don't think there's much people who likes volatility.
Well, some people do. I don't know. Not me, though.
What's your top priority for 2026?
I really do want to see the Ethereum community come together in a much stronger way. And this week in Korea, I seen the gathering of the Ethereum consortium a few days ago. I think that was quite impressive. I'm very happy. I think, I would love to see the same thing happen in Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore. Yeah, I think it's really important. Because like I said, the Ethereum Foundation is actually a very small foundation compared to a lot of the other chains. It's also wasn't really designed to kind of last forever either, right? So I think I said something a few days ago at the launch of the Ethereum Korea Consortium. I think the community should not depend on the foundation. I think the community should depend on itself, right? To come together, like the Ethereum Korea Consortium, and support each other and provide support for institutions and individuals as well. I think that's really important, and I think going forward, that's going to be necessary. And especially in Asia, there's different cultures, different languages,
different
regulations, of course, from the legal side as well. And so it's something that I think requires the local expertise much more than the foundation can do. So if there's one thing that I can hope for 2026, for the rest of this year, is that all the communities start to embrace the local companies and the local communities much more. Of course, the foundation is still going to be there, at least for the foreseeable future. And we would love to support people who are building on Ethereum. But it will be, I think the foundation itself, myself personally, would love to see each region to build up their own communities more and really unite together, and so they can help each other build on Ethereum more.
Are we looking forward to seeing everyone becoming one?
Yes, I would love to see that as well. Yeah.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
Thank you so much for
It
having
was
me.
great talking to you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you. So joining us now is Optimism, the leading layer 2 solution that's building super chain to fix these issues. We have Curtis So, Enterprise Sales Lead at Optimism with us today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. So Curtis, many users complain that Ethereum is like a highway with a massive traffic jam. How does Optimism clear out this traffic?
Yeah, great question. So the reason Ethereum is slow is because it has limited block space. The way Optimism addresses this issue is we offer a separate layer 2 that's built on top of Ethereum. And transactions get processed off-chain on this layer 2. And instead, just the compressed data gets settled back onto Ethereum. And so instead of Ethereum having to process the thousands of transactions, it only needs to process one transaction. Let me share one analogy. Let's imagine a bank, and there's a line of 1,000 people at the bank trying to talk to the banker and deposit and withdraw their cash. It'll take a very long time to get through all 1,000 people. Instead, what Optimism is like a machine next to the banker, and the machine can instantly take all of the deposits and withdrawals, compile them all at once, and that net result of all those transactions are then passed on to the bank teller. And so the bank teller only has to process one transaction instead of 1,000, and thereby saving a lot of time.
You made it so clear.
Thank you. Yeah.
So the layer 2 space is getting very crowded with players like Arbitrum and Base. What's the secret sauce that sets Optimism apart from them?
Yeah, so all layer 2s today, including Optimism, have their own mainnet and are focused on building and growing their own ecosystem. And on that front, yes, OP Mainnet is doing a good job as well. So we have leading DeFi applications like EtherFi that are home to OP Mainnet. And we also have major multinational corporations such as Mitsui of Japan that are experimenting with tokenization on OP Mainnet. Now, that being said, where we really differentiate is our business is hyper-focused on actually helping other enterprises and other businesses launch their own chain. And we're only successful when we make other people's chains successful. So a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, Vitalik tweeted in a famous post about how layer 2s need to offer value beyond just scaling. Our answer to that issue is we want Optimism to be the #1 solution and the #1 partner for bringing institutions on chain. On that front, we have talked to a lot of customers and we think about the features that are needed for enterprises to come on chain. So that can be things like privacy, that can be things like being regulatory compliant with KYC and AML, that can be risk management tools. We want to give more control to our partners so that they can internalize revenue. And lastly, I think, and most importantly, we want to give our customers the most customizability, because we live in a world where there's a lot of uncertainty and we don't know what the regulatory outlook looks like. And we want to equip our partners with the most tools and the most flexible tools so that they can adapt to a changing world and ultimately be able to outcompete their competitors.
So you guys are on the same boat with your partners.
That's right. We want to grow and be successful with our partners.
Does your OP stack strategy give you a unique advantage?
It does. And I think the unique advantage comes from the fact that we are the most customizable, and the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, all of our competitors are mainly focused on growing their own chain. And in some ways, that means that our clients have to compete with the other L2s. We come from a different perspective. We want to make sure that our clients' chains are successful and we don't want to compete with our clients.
Korea has one of the most active crypto communities in the world. So do you have any special plans, partnership with Korean market?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying we're seeing incredible demand and lots of innovation and a very thorough understanding of blockchain and a willingness to innovate in this space from the Korean market in general. Our entrance to the Korean market starts with Upbit. So Upbit, of course, one of the largest exchanges in the world by volume and the leading exchange in Korea, they chose the OP stack to launch their own layer 2 called Kiwa. And we're really, really excited to see some of the use cases that they're going to come out with. And we're particularly really interested because we think they can go beyond the typical crypto native DeFi use cases to actually bringing on corporations and their considerations, and ultimately be able to bring mainstream users who may not be as familiar with crypto rails. So that's how we start in Korea, beyond Upbit.
Yeah.
I want to share the types of customers we're talking to and the types of use cases that they're really interested in. So the use cases first. The main themes we're hearing today are around stablecoins, real-world assets, tokenization, and payments.
Yeah.
Korea has lots of companies that are leading in this sector, but they're also recognizing that there's a lot of change happening in this space, and blockchain is one way to 10x, 100x what they can do in this category. The types of customers we're talking to today are digital banks, traditional banks, exchanges, fintech companies, asset managers, investment platforms. I can't share specific names, but we can confidently say that we are talking to all of the leading companies in this category, and they are much further along in their understanding. And in some ways, they are waiting for regulatory guidance and laws to pass. And once that happens, they're going to come into the space very aggressively and very quickly.
Thank you for spending your time with us today. And also, I think a lot of viewers would have got inspired by your insights.
I really appreciate you having me here today. This is great. And if anyone is interested in talking or reaching out, please come to our website at optimism.io. And yeah, let's have a chat.
Thank you for having us today.
Thank you.
So gas fees have always been a headache for Ethereum users. Now we have Iridium Alpha from ETHGas to solve this problem. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So we all know that gas fees are the huge pain point, as I mentioned in the opening.
Yeah.
So if you could describe ETHGas in one sentence, what would it be?
What ETHGas is doing is working with Ethereum validators to create a blocks-based market, the ability to buy and sell your blocks in advance. And that's what's going to support improving the gas market so that users don't have to just cross their fingers and hope that their transaction goes through.
Yeah.
So even though gas fees are high and they can change, the biggest pain point that users have is that when they do a transaction, they have to say, well, is it going to work or is it not?
Yeah.
And they have to wait 12 seconds, 24 seconds to find out if it even went through. So ETHGas is solving that problem by making the gas markets predictable and therefore usable.
So more importantly, what's the biggest problem you're solving for both users and investors then?
Absolutely. So Ethereum, the biggest problem we have today is the MEV space, so this extracted value that's being taken from the users and from the institutions using the chain, and also the speed itself. So Ethereum's big value proposition is that it's a truly decentralized chain with validators all over the world. So the speed that it can operate at is limited.
Yeah.
But what we're able to do as ETHGas is to say, well, let's take those slow 12-second blocks and shrink them down into, say, 100 milliseconds or 50 millisecond blocks, so that we can say that we're the fastest blockchain available from a speed perspective for the users, while also having the guarantees of Ethereum security underneath.
So you have the guarantee and also the speed.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Can you go into details how gas fees negatively impact a typical user or a DeFi trader?
Absolutely. So we'll talk about gas fees and also MEV in this case, the time issue. So gas fees themselves, there is on Ethereum this base fee, which is fairly predictable, but then there's this tip which says if there's lots of competition, maybe it's a very busy time, how do you know that you're going to win the bid? How do you know that you're going to get in? And what we're saying is let's make that market a lot more predictable so that you can know much faster. So imagine if you were trying to do a trade and you submitted a trade and it said, sorry, you're not going to get in because you didn't pay enough. So then you can pay a bit more. But instead of waiting 12 seconds to do that, you could be told in 100 milliseconds, oh, pay a bit more, maybe. So within a fraction of a second or maybe just 1 second, you'll have had lots of chances to make sure you got in. So the user experience, you wouldn't see that. You would just see a green tick and just really happy that it went through. And the other part of that is MEV. So MEV comes from a discontinuity between the real world and what's on chain. So when you have a centralized exchange, say with trading prices, the price will change constantly over 12 seconds. But on Ethereum, with a 12-second gap, you have the old price, 12 seconds, and then the new price. And what we're working on is, well, if you could actually trade constantly throughout that slot, then you won't have this big issue of a massive price jump at the end of the 12 seconds. And that's where all the money kind of gets taken from you. If you tried to buy something for $1 and in 12 seconds it's now worth $1.2, suddenly you've lost all that extra money you could have got.
And everything gets more predictable.
Exactly, yeah. So it really is a win-win. You don't get those very often. I mean, blockchain and blocks face trilemmas, but with ETH gas, it really is a win-win for everyone involved.
For our investors, how does your GWEI token capture value with this ecosystem inside?
Yeah, so the GWEI token is a governance token for ETH gas. So we're building a huge amount of new technology that is above the base layer of Ethereum. So Ethereum itself is still the protocol layer, super secure, multiple client teams, globally distributed. But ETH gas is sitting on top of that and helping to be the coordination and management as a platform layer. And that's critically important. We've seen this in lots of Web 2 examples before, like Amazon or eBay or Airbnb, a coordination layer for all these different disparate stakeholders. So the GWEI token will allow us to have distributed governance because such a amount of power in Ethereum is should be handled carefully, and the best way that can be done is through governance. We've seen this before with tokens like Lido is a good example, the LDO token, which manages the governance of a protocol which handles 30% of the Ethereum stake around that. So it is possible, and it is something that is enabled by a governance token like GWEI. Yeah.
What's the ultimate goal for ETH gas?
Well, the plan for ETH gas is to improve Ethereum for everyone. It's to take on some of the technical improvements that can't be done at the base layer or can't be done anytime soon. The base layer should move slowly and predictably and maintain the decentralized properties of Ethereum that make it special today. But on top of that, we shouldn't move slowly either. We've got chains like Solana and other L1s that are able to offer a much better user experience. And we want to make sure that Ethereum doesn't get left behind. So ultimately, it's about improving Ethereum for everyone involved and giving people more choice, the validators, the people involved, and creating this futures market.
Korea has one of the most active crypto communities in the world, and I think that's the reason why you're here.
Absolutely.
Do you have any specific plans to work with Korean partners?
Yes, so ETH gas is very committed to the Korean market. We hosted our ETH Capital Summit event just on Wednesday, a few days ago, and that was our first major event, which is set in Korea as the first one of the. Even if we travel around Asia for that, it will be homed in Korea in that sense. And I think it's really important to actually have a presence in the Korean market because we're aware that Ethereum should be fully global, and we want to make sure that we can interact with the Korean retail traders. As one of the benefits of what we're describing, this real-time trading experience would be of huge benefit to the retail traders on the ground, and we want to make sure that we're building for the users.
It sounds like 2026 will be a breakout year.
Absolutely, that's the plan.
Asia. Thank you for showing us how we can finally move towards a more stable and predictable experience. We'll be watching your journey closely in Korea as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So what happens when a top leader from BlackRock decides to go all in Ethereum? Today, we're talking to Joseph Shalom, the CEO of SharpLink. Thank you for joining us.
안녕하십니까. My name is Joseph Shalom.
Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you.
SharpLink was originally known for its sports betting technology. What was the exact turning point that led you to shift into Ethereum-centered strategy?
Sure, it's actually an interesting story. My chairman is Joe Lubin. Joe is a co-founder of Ethereum. He runs a company called Consensus. And late last year, he had met Michael Saylor, the pioneer of digital asset treasuries. And they had a great idea. And Joe felt very strongly that Ethereum is actually a better treasury asset. And he spent a good part of 2025 coming up with the idea of building an Ethereum digital asset treasury company. And we did it by acquiring a NASDAQ company called SharpLink. And now our primary business is being an Ethereum treasury. Last year, we kicked off in June, and we raised over $3 billion in equity in the summer and fall. And we used all that money to buy Ether, which is the token that secures Ethereum. We're the second largest corporate holder of Ether globally.
Many people call SharpLink the Ethereum version of MicroStrategy. Did you choose Ethereum over Bitcoin? Like, you said that your CEO thought that actually it's better to select Ethereum rather than Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What was the reason for that?
Sure. Bitcoin is a great asset. It was the first original crypto asset, but the Bitcoin network really only does one thing. It allows you to store your Bitcoin and move your Bitcoin. And I have Bitcoin in my portfolio. I think it's a great asset. Ether, which is the token that secures the Ethereum blockchain, is very different because Ethereum is a programmable blockchain. It has these networks called smart contracts where you can build exchanges, you can build companies, you can swap any asset, you can build NFTs. And Ethereum as a programmable asset is where most of financial tokenization is happening. So for example, the three biggest trends in crypto and digital assets are stablecoins, which is a digital version of a dollar, or soon a Korean won. It is tokenization of assets, so taking a fund or a stock and putting it on chain in digital format so it can trade and settle instantly 24/7. And then an area that's growing on Ethereum is called DeFi, or decentralized finance, where you can borrow, lend assets on chain. And it's really, think of it as a revolution in finance, a more programmable version of finance. And most of it is happening on the Ethereum network. The final thing I would say is Bitcoin is not a productive asset. Ethereum and Ether, you can put it into the ecosystem to secure a transaction on Ethereum and get a yield of about 2.75%. So Ethereum is a great treasury asset. You can own it, you could stake it, and you get returns in Ether for your investors.
So it has three main advantages, including generating yields as well.
Correct.
We see more companies putting crypto inside their balance sheets nowadays. Do you think this is a long-term trend for the NASDAQ? And how do you deal with the market volatility nowadays?
Sure. So the first thing to know is that Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, they're very volatile assets. There have been years where it's gone up 50, 60%. And there have been years like now where it's declined by an equal amount. But each time it comes back higher. So investors need to understand it's volatile. But so are most innovative technologies. And we are in the beginning of what we would call an institutional supercycle. But they're starting to take their assets, tokenize them, so they can be traded 24/7. So you can think of this moment as almost like investing in Amazon in the earliest days when Jeff Bezos was redefining how commerce happened online. Or Jensen from NVIDIA. If you knew how important AI was going to be, you would be investing in NVIDIA early. We're just giving investors the opportunity to really get exposure to the transformation of the financial markets that are coming, including in South Korea. Don't just trust me. My old boss, Larry Fink, who's the CEO of BlackRock, has said that all BlackRock assets, almost $15 trillion, will be tokenized. And he said that Ethereum is the highway to tokenization, which is why in Korea you're seeing a debate about the Digital Asset Basic Act. And we're actually optimistic it will pass later this year.
So For our viewers' curiosity,
Sure.
how much Ethereum does SharkLink hold right now? You
Sure.
said that you're putting like 100% into it?
Yep. So we own about 870,000 Ether tokens,
Wow.
which is worth over $2 billion. So we're the second largest holder, and we do it through a NASDAQ listed treasury company. Our ticker is SBET.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is most of our investors are actually retail, but 46% of our stock ownership is by the largest institutions in the world, including Fidelity Investment, a top 3 asset manager globally, is our largest shareholder.
Many Korean institutions and public companies are watching your moves very closely. And I've heard that you've been in Korea 3 times in 5 months.
Yep.
What's your impression about the crypto ecosystem in Korea?
So I have 2 impressions. First is from an institutional perspective, the largest banks and insurance companies and asset managers are really trying to engage with both the banking and securities regulator, as well as the National Assembly, to find a way to pass the Digital Asset Basic Act. It is a key ingredient in Korea to give the green light to companies to do this technology innovation. I think they're watching the US regulatory regime very closely. In the US, we passed a stablecoin act called the Genius Act.
Yeah.
We're very close to passing the Clarity Act, and it feels like the regulators are watching, but want to be very careful to protect their national currency, but also to protect small investors. And I'm very supportive of that. The second impression is really important. I want to leave your viewers with a message. Each time I come to Seoul, I spend time in the crypto ecosystem with the young builders, the startups, the young kids, men and women, who are very enthusiastic about building new technology. There's no country in the world that has such an innovative, technology-forward culture. It is much more technologically innovative than the US. This young community is just waiting for that opportunity to innovate. And older people, or here, the seniors and the ecosystem of institutions, I would encourage them to tap into that productivity. The talent level here is incredible, and the enthusiasm is unbelievable in the crypto community. And it could be the next wave of innovation for South Korea, no different than the mobile phones, no different than exporting K-drama. And South Korea has the license to win, to be the digital hub of Asia. And I would encourage people to spend time with the community and support these young builders. They're incredibly talented. I feel very passionate about this.
I could feel your energy, and
Thank you.
even in this sport,
Yeah.
you can feel the passion.
I think it's going to be the next wave of financial innovation. And it's not just going to be about Bitcoin and Ether. It's going to be how money is moved. It's going to be how people transact and how young people and older people invest in the new infrastructure
Yeah.
of financial services.
Thank you for answering my last question, Joseph.
It is my pleasure and 감사합니다.
감사합니다 for your incredible insights today. 지금부터는 솔라나가 꿈꾸고 있는 글로벌 자산의 디지털화, 그 청사진을 함께 들여다보도록 하겠습니다. 솔라나 재단의 이성선 한국 대표님 모셨습니다. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
요즘 또 암호화폐 관련해서 저 관심이 많아서 굉장히 바쁘실 것 같아요.
아, 네네. 워낙에 한국이 전 세계적으로 이제 크립토를 많이 거래하는 걸로 유명한데요. 최근에는 이제 작년부터 좀 핫해진 스테이블 코인 관련해서 이제 한국의 은행들이나 토큰 증권 관련해서 이제 증권사들이나 또 페이 사업자들, 그다음에 이제 신용카드 회사들도 다 이쪽 스테이블 코인을 이제 결제라든지 서비스에 붙이는 도입하는 관련해서 이제 많은 관심을 가져주셔서 이제 기관들 많이 만나느라 좀 정신 없는 것 같습니다.
네. 아무래도 이렇게 많은 관심을 받다 보니까 솔라나에 대해서 아시는 분들도 있으시겠지만 사실 아직 모르시는 분들도 분명 계실 겁니다.
네네네.
솔라나란 이런 거다. 설명 한번 부탁드릴게요.
네, 솔라나는 전 세계에서 가장 많이 쓰고 있는 블록체인으로서 그 전 세계에서 가장 빠르고 싸고 비율을 좀 쉽게 드리면 디지털 자산, 크립토라고 하는 디지털 자산이랑 인터넷 금융이라고 할 수 있는 다양한 자산들을 올릴 수 있는 뭐 고속도로이자 결제망이라고 생각해 주시면 될 것 같습니다.
디지털 결제계 초고속도로다라고 비유를 해주셨는데요. 결국 솔라나를 선택하는 이유 중 하나는 굉장히 압도적인 성과, 성능일 것 같은데 가스비 측면에서 이더리움과 비교했을 때는 얼마나 더 큰 차이가 있을까요?
그 실제로 저희가 이론상으로는 65,000 정도의 TPS를 좀 유지하고 있고요. 0.4초 정도의 블록 그 타임, 그러니까 파이널리티, 그러니까 이제 결제가 일어나면 0.4초 정도에 끝나고 평균 수수료가 뭐 1센트도 되지 않는 1센트 미만의 수수료를 가지고 있기 때문에 상당히 싸고 빨라서 사실 2023년도에 전 세계에서 가장 큰 비자가 이제 저희 솔라나를 채택해서 솔라나의 결제망을 가지고 이제 스테이블 코인을 이미 결제 사업을 시작을 해서 현재는 이제 비자에서도 지금 스테이블 코인 결제 관련해서는 솔라나에서 제일 많은 양을 처리하고 있고요. 이더리움과 좀 비교하자면 사실 이더리움은 그 구조상 트랜잭션이 많이 몰리게 되면 약간 느려지는 현상들이 많이 발생하는데 저희는 아까 비유 드렸다시피 초고속 결제망을 가지고 있기 때문에 고속도로와 같이 많은 양의 어떤 트랜잭션이나 많은 양의 데이터를 처리할 수 있는 그런 환경을 좀 가지고 있다는 게 장점이어서
최근에는 디파이 예치금 규모가 급증하고 있는 걸로 알고 있어요. 글로벌 결제 기업이나 대형 기관들도 자금 유입이 눈에 띄고 있는데 그들이 많은 암호화폐 안에서도 솔라나를 선택한 이유 뭐라고 보시나요?
저희가 2026년 2월 기준으로 봤을 때 지금 T빌 기준이 한 8천만 소를 이상 기록했고요. 좀 지속적으로 말씀드린 대로 이제 계속 성장하고 있는데 그 이유는 다양한 기관들, 특히 미국의 유수한 기관들이 많이 온보딩해서 그런 것 같습니다. 그래서 뭐 저희가 최근에 보면 골만삭스나 블랙락, 그다음에 뭐 시티그룹이라든지 모건 스탠리, JP 모건 이런 그러니까 이름만 들어보시면 다 알 것 같은 은행들이 지금 계속 솔라나로 온보딩이 되고 있고요. 많은 양의 대형 펀드들을 토큰화시켜서 그것들을 솔라나에 올리고 있고요. 그래서 미국 국채라든지 뭐 크레딧 펀드라든지 뭐 다양한 ETF나 이런 상품들도 이제 토큰화이즈해서 좀 쉽게 거래할 수 있게끔 만드는 것들을 하고 있고요. 특히 또 뭐 저희가 아까 비자 말씀드렸지만 아까 말씀드린 대로 페이팔, 그다음에 뭐 서클 월드페이, 파이저도, 그다음에 웨스턴 유니언, 전 세계에서 가장 큰 송금 업체인 웨스턴 유니언도 얼마 전에 이제 솔라나로 올라와서 해외 송금 결제망을 만들고 거기서 이제 스테이블 코인으로 실제로 이제 해외 송금까지 할 수 있게끔 하는 것들을 아마 올해 안에 선보일 텐데요. 이런 것들이 실제로 기관들이 이제 솔라나에 온보딩이 되고 이런 것들이 계속해서 이제 자산들을 올리고 온체인으로 이제 올리면서 계속해서 좀 솔라나의 어떤 TBL 총 시총 규모가 계속 늘어나는 것 같습니다.
솔라나의 장점이 싸고 빠르다라고 명확하게 말씀을 해주셨는데 지금 AI랑 크립토가 만나고 있는 이 지점에서 앞으로 솔라나가 2026년에 그려나갈 그림이 굉장히 클 것 같거든요. 어떻게 플랜 갖고 계신가요?
저희 2026년 로드맵은 저희는 솔라나 자체를 원체인 나스닥으로 만들겠다. 그래서 모든 자산, 모든 마켓을 한 네트워크에서 거래할 수 있는 것들을 만들고 있고요. 저희는 인터넷 캐피털 마켓이라고 해서 그러니까 전 세계 모든 인구 중에 핸드폰만 가지고 있으면 이런 것들을 활용을 해서 모든 자산을 다 매매하고 거래할 수 있게 만들겠다라는 좀 목표를 가지고 하고 있습니다. 그래서 저희는 인터넷 캐피털 마켓, 인터넷 자본시장이라고 하는데 이런 것들을 좀 더 가속화하기 위해서 저희도 다양한 기관들이랑 계속 협업하고 다양한 케이스들을 만들면서 실제로 그냥 이론적으로만 이야기하는 게 아니라 저희 실생활에 쓰일 수 있는 서비스들을 블록체인을 활용해서 만들자. 이게 저희 모토이고 거기에 좀 집중을 하고 있습니다.
솔라나가 굉장히 다양하게 커나가고 있는 것 같은데 지금 전 세계적으로는 빠르게 성장을 하고 있다고 볼 수 있겠지만 앞서서 말씀해 주신 것처럼 한국에서는 아무래도 규제 때문에 좀 제한적인 부분이 있으실 것 같아요. 그렇다면 앞으로 솔라나가 한국에서 갖고 가고 싶은 방향성은 어떻게 되시나요?
두 가지로 관점으로 보이는데요. 이 생태계가 앞으로 더 성장하기 위해서는 이 블록체인 생태계에서 계속해서 서비스를 만들고 인프라를 만들어내는 개발자들이 필요합니다. 사실 요즘에 AI 때문에 더 이상 네이버나 카카오 같은 대기업들이, IT 기업들, 게임 업체들이, 게임사들이 이제 더 이상 신규 채용을 많이 진행하지 않는다고 합니다.
오히려 자르고 있죠.
그래서 청년들이 많은 취업난을 겪고 계시는데 저희는 오히려 이런 분들을 저희 업계로 많이 좀 온보딩도 하고 교육도 해서 좀 저희 쪽에서 좀 잡도 찾고 한국에서도 정말 글로벌리 정말 잘 되는 유니콘 기업들, 유니콘 블록체인 기업들이 나왔으면 좋겠다. 좀 그랬으면 좋겠고요. 그래서 저희는 이제 슈퍼팀 코리아를 통해서 지금도 이제 현재 진행하고 있는데요. 지금 콜로세움 해커톤이라는 1년에 한 2번 정도 가장 상반기에 한 번, 하반기에 한 번 뭐 전 세계에서 가장 큰 해커톤을 좀 진행을 하고 있습니다. 그래서 여러분 꼭 슈퍼팀 코리아 채널이라든지 저희 트위터 통해서 정보를 좀 받으셔가지고 좀 많이 지원도 하시고 저희가 이제 호스팅하는 다양한 교육 프로그램에도 많이 들으셨으면 좋겠고요. 또 다른 부분에서는 뭐 한국의 결제 시스템 자체가 워낙 잘 촘촘하게 짜여져 있기 때문에 사실 스테이블 코인 나오다 하더라도 국내 결제에서는 얼마나 많은 부분들이 스테이블 코인으로 대체될 수 있다고는 하지만 사실 소상공인들의 입장에서 생각해 보면 실시간으로 어떤 나의 매출을 정산받을 수 있는 것들, 그 다음에 뭐 어떻게 보면 수수료를 좀 여기저기 많이 떼이고 계시는데 이런 소상공인들이 이제 그런 수수료 없이도 많이 스테이블 코인을 도입하게 된다면 좀 더 사업을 하시는데 원활할 수 있지 않을까 이런 생각도 있고요. 원화 스테이블 코인이 나온다면 전 세계에서 원화들을 쓸 수 있는 곳들이 많아지고 어떤 한국 경제가 뭐 K 스테이블 코인이라 그래서 이런 것도 한류처럼 더 퍼져나갈 수 있지 않을까? 네, 특히 동남아라든지 한국에 관심 많은 곳들이 한국 스테이블 코인을 실제로 쓰고 오히려 지금 관광객들도 엄청 많이 오고 계시는데 그들도 원화 스테이블 코인을 사서 쓰고 이런 것도 일어나 보면 그만큼 한국의 위상이 높아지고 우리나라의 통화 패권도 가져가면서 어떻게 보면 우리나라 경제를 더 활성화시킬 수 있지 않을까? 그래서 오히려 규제적이나 우려하시는 측면보다 더 긍정적인 부분이 많기 때문에 이런 것들이 한국이 아직 늦지 않았습니다. 그래서 여전히 할 수 있고 한국에서 이 스테이블 코인 산업 관련해서 이제 이것들을 해 나가는 데 있어서 솔라나도 다양한 기업들이랑 계속 뭐 POC도 하고 준비도 하고 있는데요. 저희도 이제 미국 사례들이나 어떻게 해야 되는지 많이 지원도 드리고 컨설팅도 해드리면서 같이 좀 한국의 스테이블 코인 산업을 키우고 싶다 이런 마음이 있습니다.
네, 그렇기 때문에 또 대표님께서도 솔라나에 직접 몸을 담고 계신 거라고 믿습니다.
네네.
솔라나 2026년 저희도 계속해서 응원하도록 하겠습니다.
네.
오늘 말씀 고맙습니다.
네, 감사합니다.
Speed or stability? In the world of blockchain, you usually have to pick one. But our next guest says you have both. Today we have Austin Federa, co-founder of 00, joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. First, for those who aren't tech experts, what exactly does 00 do? And is it like building a private express lane on a busy highway so that blockchain data doesn't get stuck inside the traffic?
Yeah, so 00 is a very low-level protocol. It's very far down in the technical stack. And so this is the same type of technology that large financial firms and large technology firms have used to move data around the world, especially data that timeliness really matters on, for years. This is how Wall Street and traditional financial markets run on this dedicated physical infrastructure. But the public internet isn't built that way. The public internet's great, but it's built for reachability and it's built for low cost. And blockchain, we think, has finally gotten to the place where it needs the same type of high performance infrastructure that traditional finance has been running on.
Why should companies build their own private roads instead of using the public roadway?
Yeah, so the public internet is an incredible resource, but it's the limiting factor in the growth of many of the world's largest technology companies. Everyone from Samsung to Meta to Google to even, smaller technology companies use dedicated fiber networks as opposed to public fiber networks because they're much faster and they suit their needs much better. It's sort of like the cloud is great for you if you're a startup and a small business, but eventually you get to the scale of a company where you have to build your own data centers. And so most people focus on the compute side of things. We're focused on the data side of things, specifically data transmission.
So you mentioned about speed.
Yes.
So how does latency and packet loss issue impact the performance? And does the ROI justify the cost of construction?
Yeah, so one of the nice things about 00 is it is a blockchain protocol under the hood. So all of the fiber in the 00 network, and you can go to 00.xyz and see all of this, we don't run it ourselves. The same way that blockchain validators are run by many different people, the actual fiber links contributed to 00 are contributed by many different companies. We have 17 different companies today contributing fiber to this network. And so what that means is a lot of the times this is capacity that's underutilized, that maybe a company built it out, but they don't need all of it yet. And so they can make some money on it by using 0.0, but also then validators and blockchain operators, whether it's public blockchains like Solana or private blockchains that maybe a business is using, all of that can deploy its infrastructure on 0.0 the same way they could deploy infrastructure on a cloud provider.
So you're like the bridging.
Yes. And we're not running, we're not bridging assets, and we're not selling servers to people or anything like that. It's sort of, it's almost like the internet that comes into your home, right? It's an alternative to the public internet suited for businesses that need to go much faster than the public internet lets them go. Sometimes that's 65 to 75% faster than the public internet.
Wow, 65 to 75, that's a lot.
Yes.
Wow. I don't think there's not much reason not to use 0.0 then.
Yeah, especially, we think so. The data feeds that we're providing are faster than anyone else in the industry consistently. We are winning about 92% of the time over competitors in terms of getting that data to people fastest. And that's with only 50% of Solana connected. So if we get 100% of Solana connected, that should be 100%.
Right now, you mentioned a lot about Solana,
Yes.
and you're focusing on Solana. I'm curious about your multi-chain strategy. Are you planning to expand on other networks, or are you just going to stay in Solana?
Certainly. So one of the nice things about 0.0 is because it's such low-level infrastructure, it can benefit all blockchains as well as many non-blockchain systems as well. So there's one new storage network coming out called Shelby, which the Aptos team has been working on. That runs exclusively on the 0.0 network. And we're also looking to bring 0.0 edge data to other networks, including Hyperliquid, and then using as well as in centralized exchanges. So it's really a whole suite of trader-focused products that are really designed to help trade more competitively, the same way that Bloomberg and Reuters do. In traditional finance, this is a $40 billion a year business. So we're just getting started on the blockchain side.
Then what's your long-term vision for 0.0?
The long-term vision is pretty big. So one of the main innovations of the cloud providers back 15 years ago was that you could show up with a credit card and get access to servers in seconds. Before that, it would take wire transfers and many days and signing of contracts. And our long-term vision really is to bring that same idea of on-demand connectivity, where you can come to 0.0 with a network configuration you need to build and services you need to provision, and you can do that on the blockchain powered by smart contracts on a network that runs faster than the public internet. But we're not competing on execution. There's no smart contract layer for 0.0. You can't deploy an app on it. It really is foundational level infrastructure for other blockchains and AI systems as well.
Since you're in Korea,
Yes.
do you have any last words that you would like to say to our viewers?
I love Korea. I'm here about twice a year.
Twice a year?
Yeah, so my wife is also Korean, so we're back to visit her family
Wow.
at times too. But this is just an incredible market. It's so impactful for the blockchain industry in general. And one of the things I love is talking with people in Korea. They're always so informed about the technicals and the details of projects, which is rare nowadays.
So it sounds like you're building the digital highways of the future. And thank you so much for joining us and making it so easy to understand to our viewers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So as AI is becoming more sophisticated, it's getting harder to distinguish between humans and robots. Today, we are joined by Humanity Protocol, a project that is using blockchain technology to prove our humanity and bring trust back to the internet. Let's welcome Terence Kwok. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure. So in this AI-saturated world, many people wonder, why do I have to even prove that I'm human?
I think it's becoming more and more important, not necessarily to prove that you are human, but for us to have an ability to verify whether you're a human being and whether the information that you're seeing online is true or not. There are many implications, right? You see scams, you see frauds, you see people using deepfake videos to pretend to be family members, using AI-generated voice to swindle people with money, right? So these are actually becoming real issues. But on the flip side, we also think it's important to be able to prove that somebody is a human being. And then on top of that, with humanity, we're allowing people to also prove and verify different pieces of information, like where they work, where they went to school, things about them. And we think that's actually important because ultimately, if you cannot tell whether something is real or not, then we think actually the fabric of society breaks down. We look at, say businesses, right? If you think about even in the internet world where companies generally want to market and sell their services to people, you really kind of want to be reaching people rather than bots and AI, right? Because a real person might buy a car, but a bot might just be wasting your advertising dollars without yielding any possible sale for the company. So whether it's on the scam and fraud side, fraud prevention side, or even from a marketing, from a business perspective, we actually think it's super important.
Humanity Protocol is often compared to WorldCoin. How is palm scanning fundamentally different from iris?
So I think from our perspective, right, I like to reiterate again, for us, it's very much, it's no longer, the way we think about humanity, it's not just the palm scan. WorldCoin is very much just the iris, but the way we look at it is that a human is more than just being human. A human is also where you work, where you go to school, your hobbies, the things you like to do, right? The restaurants that you spend money at. So we want to essentially take all of this data, allow the person to turn this into encrypted credentials and to be able to share it and show it with anybody they need. So the palm side is just one, but or that's sort of the parallel to what WorldCoin is doing on the biometric side, but we're doing a lot more things than that.
So moving on to humanity tokens, beyond price speculation, what's the actual role?
So, I think apart from price speculation, which a lot of people do, what we really focus on is building utility, right? So I mentioned earlier there's a blockchain. So the blockchain requires the token for gas fees, but more importantly, because we've built out credentials. So any sort of credential issuer, we call them identity validator. So it might be a financial institution like MasterCard that we recently partnered with, or it might be a university, it might be a company. If they want to issue a credential, they have to stake some tokens in order to issue the credential. And then we have, down the road, we're launching a note network where people can essentially own these verifier notes, run the zero knowledge proofs, and they will essentially earn tokens as a result of running these proofs. And what is happening is essentially, imagine a company says, I want to check if this person is a person and if this person has a university degree. So in order to make that check, the company will have to pay a verification fee. And that fee is also paid in the H token. And that H token is actually split in rewards between the verifier nodes, the zero knowledge proofers, and the identity validators. So creating sort of an entire economy, essentially for data, identity, and credentials.
So finally, everyone in Korea is excited to welcome you. What's your specific plans in the Korean market?
Specific plans in Korea, I think we're doing a lot. We're literally building a team now, full-time, to be based in Korea. I think let's focus on sort of the crypto speculation side. Obviously, token price is important. And I think we've done pretty well. But more importantly, it's how do we build a real business where the service is useful. So one key thing that we're now starting to do is actually working with enterprises. So we're going to start working with enterprises on figuring out how, through humanity and through some of the credentials, how we can actually also leverage AI to benefit these companies because of the expertise, because of the credentials, because of the people and users that we have within this platform. So it's sort of call it almost like a business AI transformation sort of enterprise business tied in with our expertise because we have a lot of data, we have a lot of identity credentials about people, about users where the users can have the opportunity to share with businesses. So we're really focusing a lot on Korea, on starting to build that business, and we're structuring a team here now.
Do you have any last words that you want to say to our viewers?
I think, from our perspective, if you ask anybody to say, it's important to prove that we're human or prove things are real a year or two ago, I think that people might think you're crazy. But I think now with like AI, it's really important to be able to trust things. It's really going to be important to be able to verify things. And I think that there's a lot of economic value for companies, external companies to be able to do that. There's also a lot of value that's intrinsic to something like what we do, which is providing the infrastructure to do that.
We look forward to seeing you more and also your more growth in the Korean ecosystem as well. Thank you for spending your time with us.
Thank you very much.